Welcome to the 12th ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there's only one new part. And stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. By the way, check the pinned comment below this video to see why we're not learning readings for each kanji just yet. Let's get into it. We're starting today off with a very simple kanji. It means big. The official radical of big is big, which means it shows up as a part in many other kanji. It's made up of the parts one and person. In fact, this one looks a lot more like an actual person than person does. That's not a mistake, actually. We'll get to that in the historical evolution part. There are three strokes in big. We start with the horizontal one, going left to right. We then draw person through it, starting with the stroke on the left, and finishing with the one on the right. Usually, in handwriting, the third stroke starts beneath the horizontal one, though that's not very obvious from the computer font. Historically, this is apparently a pictograph of an adult human. Some explanations say they're stretching out their legs and arms, which is easy enough to see. You can easily imagine a person holding their arms out wide like this to illustrate how big something was. This big. The alien worm was this big, Scully. For our story, that is exactly what we're going with. This fluorescent worm is big. As big as a person's stride. Or, we could add, as big as their arms fully stretched out. I went with stride because our original story for person was Ando-san viewed from the side, walking. Remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it. Or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. I'm not seeing it, but this kanji means dog. The official radical for dog is dog. You'd think big, right? Historically, this makes sense, but if you just look at the modern kanji, it's a little baffling. To make this one easier to remember, we're going to break it down into big and a drop or dot. There are 4 strokes in dog, which follow exactly the order you'd expect. We draw big with the horizontal stroke first, and person second. We then add the drop over on the right above the horizontal 1 stroke. This has got to be one of the most dramatic historical shifts for a kanji that we've seen so far. Clearly, the ancient Chinese were documenting how the lizard people aliens evolved into the dog people aliens, who then shape-shifted into our world leaders, who all have a drop of bad dog in them. What? Speaking of great fiction, our story will be the biggest dog is just a drop bigger than the big fluorescent worm. From the kanji big. If you think I should start over and create a single continuing story containing every kanji we've covered so far, but with an X-Files-like alien arc, hit the like button and find me a few hundred extra hours. I'm only half joking about the X-Files kanji series. Well, no, I'm pretty much full-on joking, but this kanji means half. The official radical for half is 10. We split that 10 in half with the 8 horse-leg crown, which gives us our parts. There are 5 strokes in half. We start with the first 3 strokes in 8 horse-leg crown, with the legs, one on the left, then on the right, and the horizontal line below. We then draw the horizontal line in 10, followed by the vertical line cutting through everything. Splitting the whole thing in half, if you will. Oh, I will. Historically, this kanji was originally a combination of a kanji we haven't learned yet, cow, and 8. This apparently represented splitting up a cow in half, describing the origin of hamburgers. I couldn't find any explanation to how it became 10 and 8, but at some point in history, that happened. All of this spells misfortune for our horse that has been stuck lying on its back. We cut the horse lying on its back in half with a fluorescent 10 staff. Subscribe to save the horse. It worked last time, I think. Well, no, I guess not, since we're doing it again. This is the only new part for today. We used a staff to cut through the horse in the last story, but this probably would have worked better. It means blade. Technically, this is a different form of a radical we learned in a previous video, katana. And that is considered this radical's official radical. Or rather, this is that kanji just on the right. When katana appears on the right of a kanji, it's usually drawn like this and called ritto because of how similar it looks to the katakana di. We're going to make blade its only part. There are two simple strokes in ritto, or blade. They're the same as the ones in di. We draw the straight vertical line on the left, followed by the one on the right that is similar to a feathered broomstick, and generally longer than the first stroke, making sure to curve it in a bit. I could not find any history for this one different from that of katana, because technically they're the same kanji. So the story we'll use is... The name comes from the fact that it looks exactly like the katakana di, but it comes from the kanji for sword, so we're going with a blade. In other words, it's a pictograph, and that's everything I said at the beginning. The first kanji that will use ritto or blade is in front, and blade is the official radical. This kanji is very clearly divided up into 8 horse-leg crown, a moon, and blade. I find the orderliness of this kanji very appealing. I'm not sure why. There are 9 strokes in front. Each part is written one at a time and distinctly on its own, so it can be a little difficult to get the balance right at first. We start with the 8 horse-leg crown on top, followed by the 4 strokes in moon below it, over on the left. We finish it off with the ritto version of blade on the right, but still below the 8 horse-leg crown. Historically, it appears that this kanji used to be written with the radical stop on top, and the lower half was apparently not the moon. Apparently, it used to have a meaning of to cut. Maybe they cut something up and this is the kanji that represents the part that fell in front. Sure. For our story, we stay in the world of the macabre and say, in front of the halved horse lying on his back, someone speaks of one moon before what happened with a blade. Please never hesitate to share the story you made for a kanji in the comments. It might help someone who this story did not help. And now we come to the final kanji in lesson 12. It's been a long time coming. Come. It means come. I told you, I'm not stopping. The official radical for come is tree, which is probably not hard to see. What's with the rhymes today? The parts are tree and 8 horse-leg crown, but inside the tree for some reason. Maybe a king came and dropped it in the tree? What's that? It's not the story section yet? Oh, sorry. My alien masters. There are 7 strokes in come. We start with the first horizontal stroke in tree, and then draw the 8 horse-leg crown beneath it. We then cut through the whole thing with the trunk of the tree, and attach the branches beneath the 8 horse-leg crown. Historically, this was apparently a pictograph of a stalk of wheat swollen with grains. It eventually was borrowed to mean come, and eventually looked like this, with 2 little people inside the tree. The modern kanji taught as come is a simplification of that one. For our story, we'll say, to get to our upside down horse, we come through the trees. Which brings us to the lesson 12 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, write it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is in front. Next is big. Just a few more. Here's come. And then there's dog. Finally, we have half. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our Level 1 Kanji Flashcard deck for Anki on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji series videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.